Shortland. The question is that this bill now be read a second time, and I call the member for Dobell.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. The member for Shortland and I don't agree on much, but one thing we do agree on is how outstanding Newcastle University is. I rise to support this government's higher education reforms, and the reforms proposed by this bill give effect to providing opportunity to more students, including those from disadvantaged backgrounds in rural and regional areas. The Higher Education and Research Reform Amendment Bill of 2014 introduces, inter alia, a range of measures to place Australia on the global map as a provider of world-leading university education. The reforms proposed within this bill expand opportunities for students by supporting more courses which will provide greater diversity and higher skills to meet shifting job skills demand, increasing support for disadvantaged rural and regional students through Australia's greatest scholarship scheme, and ensuring Australian universities are not left behind at a time of rising performance by growing international university systems within our region and worldwide. This bill also guarantees that our higher education system is sustainable into the future and that our third largest export, the $15 billion international education market, is protected and growth is encouraged. These reforms are necessary to prevent Australian education institutions from being left behind. Our current system is outdated, and if this status quo remains, we will see Australian universities become uncompetitive with international institutions. Unfortunately, we're now seeing Australian universities declining in world rankings. In 2014, The Times Higher Education Reputation Rankings listed only 5 Australian universities in the world's top 100, compared to 6 the previous year. 5 years ago, there were no Chinese universities ranked in the world's top 200 universities. Today, there are 6. Higher education institutions require the flexibility to respond appropriately to increasing challenges, including student mobility, technological advancement and rapid innovation. Many institutions have been frustrated by the restriction of regulation, stifling the development of creative means to compete with international providers. To secure the sustainability of our future workforce, Australia needs a diverse economy capable of adapting to global competition. And these reforms will see our tertiary institutions afforded new incentives and opportunities to develop partnerships and encourage innovative courses which will deliver the skills and capability as demanded by local employers and industry. Higher education has a vital role in our society as a catalyst of economic growth through educating and upskilling our future and current workforce, in addition to producing quality research. These reforms expand choice and opportunity and will strengthen this vital section of our economy. Do you have a point of order?
I'd like to ask the member a question.
Under standing orders?
No, I'm not taking it.
Do you accept the intervention?
No. This bill will enable
the intervention is not accepted.
2018 an additional 80,000 higher education students per year access to government subsidies. For the first time ever, students will receive Commonwealth support to undertake and complete diplomas, advanced diplomas and associate degrees. All Australian undergraduate students in registered higher education institutions will be supported for all accredited courses. This bill enhances opportunity. For an electorate such as Dobell, this will see more people afforded the opportunity to engage in higher education, in addition to attracting quality jobs as a result of a highly educated labour market. By extending Commonwealth support to diploma courses, we are providing an important pathway into higher education for those students seeking later admission to university studies. Providing students the opportunity to develop the skills required to successfully undertake higher education ensures that they have the best chance of attending university and attaining a tertiary qualification. This is especially important in regional and low socio-economic areas where students are currently afforded less opportunity to enter into higher education as compared to students living in metropolitan areas. In Dobell, only 50% of students attain Year 12 qualifications. For those students who don't complete their high school certificate, they're often denied the opportunity to attend university. On the Central Coast, only 16% of residents possess a tertiary qualification, and it's my aim to see this number increase. By extending student access to the HELP scheme, we will open the door to people who were previously unable to meet the upfront costs of a diploma pathway course, which allows more people to participate in undergraduate studies at university. We're also extending Commonwealth support to enable private universities and non-university higher education institutions to compete for students. By doing so, we acknowledge the role played by private institutions in contributing to the diversity of Australian higher education. By extending support to private institutions, we're welcoming and encouraging them to play a greater role in providing higher education. And again, this will benefit regional communities where non-traditional providers can meet the demand for higher education services. And this is a significant reform for regional communities such as the Central Coast. The University of Newcastle has demonstrated a commitment to the Central Coast with the establishment of their Ourimbah campus, which is currently celebrating its 25th anniversary. The Ourimbah campus offers 16 undergraduate degrees, 4 of them exclusively, and sees a partnership with TAFE that provides diverse educational opportunities. The Ourimbah campus partnership with TAFE will benefit from funding for pathway and other diploma courses, which will see more people provided opportunity to succeed at university. Unfortunately, despite the outstanding work of the University of Newcastle, many local students have no option but to travel to Sydney or Newcastle to study their chosen course. And once qualified, unfortunately, few return to the Central Coast to undertake employment, to settle down and raise families. So this is seeing us exporting our best and brightest to metropolitan areas. And figures released by Wyong Shire Council have estimated a shortfall of 7,600 university places within the Central Coast and the Hunter Valley. And based on forecasted population growth, it's expected that this number will increase to 8,600 by 2031. Now, our growth plan for the Central Coast recognised this shortfall and included a commitment to facilitate the approval process for university development in our region. And this commitment is forged from the understanding that universities play a crucial role in driving development in regional areas through job creation and educating the community. And I'm proud to be working with Wyong Shire Council as they develop a master plan for a new university precinct at Warnervale. On the back of these reforms, it is the vision that this precinct will be home to a diverse range of education providers, including a university, TAFE and other private education institutions. Private institutions and non-university higher education providers will be encouraged to establish themselves in regions such as the Central Coast, as they will now be able to offer Commonwealth subsidised courses to a market in which courses are currently not available. For the people of Dobell, this is critically important in ensuring that they have access to world-class education facilities that will unlock the prosperity for our region for years to come. This reform package also empowers universities to determine the appropriate fees for their courses, which will generate a competitive market for students between a greater range of providers. Currently, higher education institutions have little means to distinguish themselves within the market and demonstrate the true monetary value of their courses. And it's fair to say that universities have been operating with one arm tied behind their back. Despite the government not being in a position to know the true cost for a university to deliver a course, it has been imposing upon universities how much they can charge their students. Now, this is unique within the Australian economy and has undoubtedly restricted the growth of university standards when compared to foreign universities. Competition between higher education providers will benefit students, as they now have a greater array of choice when it comes to course offerings and prices. Fees will be set on the basis of supply and demand in a competitive market. This competition will drive quality and encourage providers to be more responsive to the needs of their students and the needs of business and industry. And ultimately, all providers will be required to compete on price and quality, which means more flexibility and choice for students. As previously highlighted, the Central Coast has a below-average number of people completing secondary education, undertaking tertiary education or possessing tertiary qualification. The contributing factors include, but are not limited to, a shortfall in available local university courses, costs associated with transport or relocation to metropolitan areas, and below-average education attainment rates. Now, this government is determined to assist people who find themselves in these difficult situations, and this is why this government will establish the new Commonwealth Scholarship Scheme. These scholarships will deliver major new support for regional students to attend university. Under the proposed higher education system, we will require universities and other higher education providers to spend $1 in every $5 of additional revenue raised on scholarships for disadvantaged students. Universities and higher education institutions will be able to provide tailored, individualised support to students of a low socio-economic status. Now, this may include needs-based scholarships to help meet the cost of living, fee exceptions or tutorial support. For a Dobell school leaver unable to afford to relocate to Sydney, such assistance can result in them having the opportunity to attend university and achieve a sustained path of employment and investment in their future. And these scholarships will be of enormous benefit to students from regions including the Central Coast. Now, I struggle to understand why members opposite are so committed in their opposition to these reforms. Now, it's one thing to oppose these measures in Parliament on ideological grounds, but to see members opposite parading around university campuses and blatantly peddling lies to scare students away from higher education is shameful. And this government is not, and I repeat, not increasing fees. Fees will be set by universities who will determine what to charge. Competition between higher education providers will ensure universities are reasonable when setting their fees. Higher education providers will compete for students, and the truth is, under these reforms, more students will have the opportunity to attend university, and they will not face any upfront costs. This government is maintaining the Higher Education Loan Program scheme, meaning no student will pay a cent up front for their higher education until they've graduated and are earning a reasonable income of over $50,000. As a government, we believe that it's fair students contribute equitably to the cost of their education, and we're asking students to pay for 50% of their higher education costs. The Australian taxpayer will pay the other 50%. Under the current scheme, the Australian taxpayer is meeting 60% of the cost, with students paying the other 40%. And it's folly to suggest that somehow these reforms are delivering a cut to education funding. This government's expenditure on higher education increases each and every year. Compared with Labor's 2013-14 budget, where total education funding was $8.97 billion, our budget shows higher education funding growing to $9.47 billion by 2017-18. And we're supporting more access for people to attend university and other higher educational institutions. And members opposite would have you think that there's no support for these reforms. Well, Vice-Chancellors across Australia overwhelmingly support this government's reform package, with Professors Gareth Evans and Ian Young of the Australian National University stating, "The bottom line is that if Australia is to develop universities which can truly compete internationally and produce really outstanding graduates of the kind that are so vital to our nation's future, we have to not only allow but encourage diversity by removing the constraints that prevent innovation." Well, I look forward to the unlocked potential these reforms will deliver, in particular for regions such as the Central Coast. We will see renewed investment from higher education providers and greater opportunity for local students. We will see higher paid jobs as a result of industry and business being attracted to regional areas through the provision of a better educated workforce. And students needn't fear these reforms. Students should embrace the endless opportunities afforded to them by this nation's great universal education system and have the confidence to say, "I can follow my dreams and there are no barriers to prevent me from reaching my full potential." The possibilities are truly endless, and I commend this legislation to the House.
I thank the member for